Welcome to another St. Andrews Spotlight, where we are going to be talking with our upper school and middle school directors of curriculum instruction. Today we're joined by Millie Perez, our upper school director of curriculum instruction. Hi, Millie.
Hi.
And also Mark Richards, our middle school director of curriculum instruction. Hi, Mark.
Greetings.
So you guys, we've done an awful lot of work over the last 6 to 8 weeks, and we for our home learning program.
Months.
It
does feel like months at times. I wanted to kind of highlight one of the changes that we did, or spotlight our move to a PassIncomplete system at the middle school and the upper school. And of course I know all about it, but I wanted to hear from you guys. Why did the middle school and upper school decide to move to a PassIncomplete system for home learning?
Yeah, I can start with that. We were facing an unprecedented shift. We had to make some sudden changes, some sudden moves, and we thought that the most equitable, most fair way to ensure that we were considering all students, regardless of their home backgrounds, regardless of their situation, personal situation, that we wanted to ensure that we were thinking about all our students. We also knew that because we were dealing with a pandemic, a global pandemic, we were not the quality or the ability to continue teaching the way teachers were accustomed to teach, and the ability for students to receive that instruction and be able to do that very independently at home was going to be very much shifted and altered. And so again, we wanted to make sure that we were being very reasonable and equitable with our expectations, both for teachers and for students. And so in order to encapsulate all that in a fair manner, we definitely thought that PassIncomplete was the way to go. We first considered pass-fail, but we are a school that really values community and values inclusiveness or inclusivity. And so we thought that PassIncomplete was the better terminology for our school, because we were ready and we were willing to ensure that our students had multiple opportunities to demonstrate success and demonstrate understanding in each of their courses, and set with the standards that set out by all the teachers that they have. And so we wanted to ensure that we were, again, going to capture all our students to make sure that every student was seen and heard. And so we thought that PassIncomplete was a better way to look at this, because we wanted to offer students multiple avenues and multiple opportunities to demonstrate success. And so fail just seems like not the appropriate word for St. Andrews.
Thank you. And I wonder, what could we share with the larger community about what work was done behind the scenes in order to move towards a PassIncomplete model? Because I know that there was a lot, but can you guys speak on that a little bit?
Yeah, I can speak to that. I think it highlights one of the themes of our DCI team, in that we're really trying to explore. I apologize for the big plane going overhead. It's a little loud. We're really trying to explore the ideas of ways to look at our system and our different divisions, and try to have greater interdependence, greater alignment. And Millie and I have been talking for many months about grading for equity and those principles, and Millie's even been doing a book study. I certainly have been engaging our department chair group in the middle school and lots of teachers about grading questions and ideas about grading and assessment. Also in the lower school, they've been doing a lot of work with formative assessment and assessment for learning. So this has been a theme, and I think when this came, we were kind of in a really good spot to say, okay, well, we've been exploring lots of ideas. We've really been doing a lot of research. Now that we've got this really pressing scenario, what are we going to do? And so it actually turned into something of an instant project that Millie and I needed to collaborate on. And so we kind of moved the process and the dialogue forward into not just exploration and research, but really then into, wow, we actually need to put a policy into place. So a lot of it was she and I comparing ideas, even bringing you in, Josh, and talking about different ways that we should go forward, and what are the knowns and the unknowns in the scenario that we're going to have to calculate for. And I think once you start realizing that there's so many unknowns that you're trying to calculate for, the only fair response is this. and particularly, you know, when we realize that an incomplete, to me, saying a fail to a student in this situation, I feel like that says that we're also failing the student, because to me, it seems like the incomplete notion is that this situation is incomplete. It is not desirable. It is not full in a way that we're used to, in the way that we would think is ideal, in the way that we would want. So, you know, we wanted to recognize that, you know, the way that we were framing this for families, for teachers was critical. And I think once we kind of got our heads around the same notion, and started thinking about messaging and thinking about how we engage department chairs and teachers in the process, and begin, you know, to set up some training and exploration, it was lots of different conversations with lots of different groups. And Millie and I just continually comparing notes about how things were going sort of at each step in the process. But just always making sure that when a new question came up, we're like, wow, that's a really good question. We hadn't thought about that. And so I think you know, the process of coming up with kind of FAQ documents for people to continue to go back to, and realize that even when we had kind of landed on what seemed to be a pretty stable approach, there were still little tweaks that we needed to do to make sure that we were still accounting for something that we just hadn't predicted. So it was a long process, but it was a great process too. And I think the things that we've really uncovered about this way of not only talking about assessment and grading in general, but then what are the particulars and the technical elements of the way that we grade and assess, I think is going to serve us in really incredible ways going forward when we think about this topic, when we think about equity and all the different things that grades can do, you know, well to some degree, but they're also in a traditional sense very limited, and other ways of approaching assessment and the idea of guiding students and really engaging them in the learning and helping them be more independent, more self-reliant, is really what we're after.
And I think as far as communication, you know, internally, what the DCIs did was ensure that we were communicating with our chairs, so that they can then in turn communicate with the teachers in each of their departments. And so we, you know, that streamlining that communication has been really important and very essential in this process, just because we're undergoing so many changes in such a little short amount of time. And so that communication has been really, really important, and relying heavily on those academic leaders inside of each department has been really essential in this process. In addition to that, you know, the DCI is working with the upper school heads and partnering up to ensure that the communication that we're sending home is also streamlined. So whatever we're communicating internally, we've also been, you know, putting a lot of effort into making sure our parents and our students are receiving that information as well. And like Mark alluded to earlier, we prepared an extensive FAQ document where we kind of predicted what sorts of questions a parent and the teacher really might have in this scenario, just to really try to deepen the understanding of what the thought process that's going into this, as clearly as possible, as succinctly as possible, but in a way where to help people understand, oh, okay, I get it. I get the PassIncomplete, or I get the, you know, the standards-based grading a little bit more.
Well, thank you so much, and I'll say that, you know, I know that Amelia and I sat in on a webinar with about 400 different independent school educators, the Mastery Transcript Consortium. Actually, Joe Feldman, who wrote that Grading for Equity book that Millie did the book study, is working on the book study with the upper school faculty was there. And our policy was endorsed by them as the way to go for independent schools. So, you know, we did a lot of work. We did a lot of research. You guys did a heck of a lot of work on this to get to a point where what we've come up with, I think, is heralded across the country as a really fantastic solution for our current situation. So I just want to say thanks to you guys for all the work and for sharing with me a little bit more about the work that went involved into that policy. Thank you both so much for joining me.
Yeah, you're welcome. Our pleasure.
Thank you.